Welcome back everyone. Today we're going to be looking at step 7 on how to lose weight, and that is to do exercise 3 times a week. The reason I've chosen 3 times a week is because it is practical and realistic, as well as having proven results. So the World Health Organization recommends that adults do 150 minutes of exercise a week. If you divide that in 3, it'd be about 50 minutes each time. And the research shows that if you do exercise over a long period of time, 3 times a week, that your health will improve. The other thing to note is that it's nice to have a little break between exercise sessions so that your muscles recover, and so that if you have a nice healthy diet that has protein, carbohydrates and fats, you can replenish your energy stores and your muscle mass. The other thing to note is that for children it is recommended 1 hour of exercise a day. Now I would love for the schools to adopt this because as parents we're very busy, we go to work, we come back home and we have to cook, do homework and all sorts of other things, and so we may not necessarily have the time to do 1 hour of exercise with our children. So it'd be really nice if it was already incorporated into their curriculum. Exercise has been linked to weight loss for as long as I can remember, and it makes sense because when you exercise you use a lot of energy, you use a lot of calories. However, there are limitations to this mode of weight loss, and most of you probably know someone that actually does a lot of exercise every day and they don't eat very much, and yet they are still overweight. Why is this the case? Well, in order to maintain weight, what has to happen is that the amount of energy that comes into your body has to be equal to the amount of energy that is used up by your body. In an individual that's overweight or obese, what happens, there is a tip, there's a disbalance between the energy intake and the energy expenditure. This is shown here. So there's more intake relative to what's spent, but the expenditure may not actually be related to the amount of exercise that you do, and the intake of energy may not actually be related to the amount of food that you eat. And the reason for this is because even though at the simplistic level, and that's what we have been using to treat obesity, we have been decreasing caloric intake. So that's the very low caloric diet, which usually includes a decrease of 20 to 40% of the caloric intake. And we have also been using an increase in exercise. And this is all very logical, and it works short term, it works temporarily. Eventually, after a few years, people gain their weight back, and possibly earlier than that, and sometimes actually gain more weight. So there must be something more to it. It couldn't possibly be that 2/3 of the population have no self-control, no will to be able to control a exercise regime and a diet. And in fact there is. It is called the brain. The brain is the master regulator of our weight. It decides how much energy we're going to spend, and it decides how much we're going to take in, how much food we're going to eat. Okay, so if you say you did a lot of exercise, then you came home and then you might just spend the rest of the day laying on the lounge. So you didn't do your shopping, you didn't clean the house, you didn't do anything. So you ended up spending the same amount of energy. And that will be the brain being responsible for that. So the brain will control your behavior to make sure that you spend exactly the amount of calories that it thinks you should. It's also going to control your metabolism. And in fact, in individuals that are overweight, they have thyroid resistance, and thyroid release is regulated by the brain, and so their metabolism is usually low. The other thing the brain will control in order to control the intake, it controls your hunger. It controls your satiety, and it also rewards you when you eat certain foods. So there's also a reward factor to it as well. So you can see that losing weight is not as simple as decreasing caloric intake and increasing exercise long term. We really need to look at the brain and the regulation of these two components of weight maintenance, and also the hormonal status, because the brain is highly responsible for what our hormones are doing in our body. So what I want you, I guess, to take home is that when you do exercise, look at it as not spending calories for weight loss, but look at it as improving your hormonal profile so that you are more healthy, and that it's in a state where it's going to help you to lose weight. When you do exercise, you increase or alter a lot of hormones, and one of those hormones is ghrelin. I'm going to spend the next few weeks talking about the effects of exercise on various hormones, and I'm going to do them individually so it's easier to explain. And today I'm just briefly going to talk about the first hormone, and that is ghrelin. Ghrelin is released by the stomach. So when the stomach is empty and it doesn't have any food, it will release ghrelin. Ghrelin then travels to the brain, where it's going to cause, from the hypothalamus, you to feel hungry. And it's going to make you change your behavior so that you go looking for food and eat more. Alright, when you exercise, it will decrease ghrelin release. So less ghrelin will be released into the circulation. Remember that all these things we have to put into context. It doesn't stay that way forever. It's a transient change. So it will last, in one case, in one study showed that it lasted for about an hour and a half. After that, it will start going back to its normal level. So if your stomach was empty, it will start releasing ghrelin again, so that you feel hungry and go get food. So how can you use this? Well, say you're doing the 12-hour time restricted feeding, so you're only eating between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Say you wake up at 7 and you're a bit hungry, you'd like to eat, but you don't want to break your time frame. You can go for a run for an hour or a walk for an hour, and that will decrease your hunger enough for you, for that when you come back, then you can have your breakfast and eat. Anyway, that's what I'm covering today, and next week we will talk about another hormone, and so that eventually you can see the complexity of what is happening in your brain in terms of weight loss and how you can use it to help you to lose weight. See you next week.